Hi. I don't really know what to title this. It's a lot of information in a video that will probably be a little longer than my normal videos. Um, I had recently had a lot of very vigorous changes in my medication treatment cycle that did not go so well, and I'm still recovering. As you can tell, I still have a slight slur. I'm not sure how my eye movement is doing. The slurring is the main thing, and I can't think. The brain fog is still really there. Um, and word recall, that's a problem. So what happened was I saw my infectious disease specialist in person um, a few weeks ago. Honestly, this timeline is so frazzled for me. I can't tell you what day anything happened. Um, a few weeks ago, it feels like I saw my infectious disease specialist, and he determined that the IV ceftriaxone alone was not progressing me enough, and so he was going to add IV doxycycline twice a day. I've taken doxycycline by mouth and did not tolerate it very well. That's why he chose the IV form. Um, I'd also been struggling with some nausea, so he refilled my nausea medication. Um, I told him about my concerns about my weight gain and the fact that I physically cannot get up off my ass. And as far as eating well goes, I don't eat bad, but I just can't get off my ass because when I stand up, I get dizzy and can't stand for more than 5 minutes. But he put me on Metformin twice a day for that, and I was very excited about that. I had heard very good things from some psych patients who had taken Metformin whenever their psych meds made them gain weight, which I think is a bit of what's going on with me. Um, and then also I asked him about low-dose naltrexone for pain, which I have heard a lot of people in my autoimmune groups, in my lupus groups, in my Lyme groups talk about LD and low-dose naltrexone. Best thing in the world, absolute lifesaver. So I asked for that about pain because I don't tolerate opiates well. I have a moral opposition to taking them. In the past, when I've tried things like gabapentin, it makes me really fuzzy in the head, so I don't want to go down that route. So this seemed like a viable option for me. I also mentioned IV lidocaine once a week, but the cardiac side effects were too severe for me to be comfortable with, so I chose the low-dose naltrexone. And what happened in the next week was an absolute shit show. Um, First, they didn't have the Doxy in stock for several days, and so I didn't start the Doxy for a while. But I did start the Metformin the first night, and I did start the low-dose naltrexone the first night. Now, when I looked at the bottle, I just looked at the bottle to see what the pill was. I didn't look at what the dose was. I was so sick at that point, I didn't care what the dose was. In my studies of low-dose naltrexone, I had not actually even looked into the dosages. So I do take responsibility for not being as proactive about what I'm ingesting as I should be. But I took all of those things, and I started feeling very bad about an hour into it. I was really cold, but I was really hot, and I was sweating, and I couldn't put a blanket on me because I would sweat more, but I was so cold, and I was nauseous, and I was shaking, and I couldn't talk, and just the shaking, and the being cold and hot, and so that prompted me to look at my bottles of medication I had just filled, and that prompted me to discover that I was not prescribed low-dose naltrexone. I was prescribed the dose of naltrexone that you give someone who is currently using heroin. I was given 50 milligrams of naltrexone. So I stayed up until 5 a.m. going through like a pseudo withdrawal. I don't really know what happened. Everything I know about withdrawal, that's exactly what happened to me. It was one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with. And then the next day, the diarrhea from the metformin or from the naltrexone was absolutely ridiculous. Um, but then it stopped after I took it for a few more days. But the slurring continued, and the psychiatric parts continued. And my mother thought that it was the metformin, so I discontinued the metformin under doctor's advision. I did let my doctor know that I was doing this, and oh yeah, I forgot to throw in somewhere towards the end of the week the Doxy got in stock, and I picked it up, and I had to mix it myself. I had to mix it with a syringe into a vial for 5 minutes, and then pull it back into the vial, and then put it into a syringe bag. I've got one hanging over there, but I'm too lazy to go get it. And then like run it through the line so there's no air in the line, and do it right after I did my Rossifin injection. Within one infusion, I could tell that things were not going to be okay for me, and that things were going to get very bad for me. And my infectious disease doctor told me that within 3 days, I would be able to tell if the doxycycline added was going to help me or hurt me, if we had overdone it, or if we were needing to do more. And the case was we had overdone it. I gave myself 3 or 4 treatments of doxycycline, and I could not walk on my own, I could not stand on my own, I could not eat on my own, I could not talk on my own. I was sleeping, I was waking up in 30-minute increments to take my meds, to eat. It was absolutely the most miserable. I don't even know. I blinked and it was like June 20th. It was time to refill one of my meds. It's insane, and I can't explain to you how absolutely horrible I felt. So I, again, under doctor's advision, discontinued the IV drugs, both of them, the Rossifin and the Doxycycline. I'm just flushing my PICC line daily now, and I do feel quite a bit better. I'm getting my energy back really slowly. I'm not sleeping all day. I've had energy to go to the store. I've had an energy to... Sorry, my cat's being cute. I've had energy to communicate and see people and text people back and actually watch things online instead of just lay in bed and sleep. I had my first shower today in about a week or more, probably more. It's just been a very hard time. And then about 3 days ago, I got the proper dose of low-dose naltrexone, 1.5 milligrams. It was made at the same compound pharmacy that makes my IV drugs. I took my first dose last night. I held off on it because I was nervous. And so far I have no complaints. Usually I wake up and my Achilles tendon hurts really bad. It didn't hurt this morning. We'll see how it goes. I don't have any negative side effects. My doctor told me that it might impact my weight some as far as helping me lose weight, and I've noticed that my appetite is really, really low. So maybe that'll stick around. But, I don't know. I feel really taken advantage of by a doctor that I trusted. And this is a very discouraging moment in my treatment. And today when I was picking up my meds, a pharmacist that works at the compounding pharmacy also, who knows a bit about my story, she asked me how I was doing, and I kind of gave her the brief summary of what I just told you all. And she said, "Oh, well, you're not any better." And I said, "Well, I mean, I can come in here and pick up my meds. I'm not bedbound." And she said, "But the treatment didn't work then." And it just made me think that the last 3 months of having this in my arm has been a waste for nothing. I'm very down today about this. I'm very discouraged. I'm very frustrated. This is not a good day for treatment or positivity. I don't have time for your toxic positivity. These diseases suck. Let me be upset about them, please.